Good morning and good evening and good afternoon, depending on where you're at. I don't think there are too many people who are in good afternoon time zone. I don't even know which country is good afternoon right now. Japan is probably midnight. Europe is like a late afternoon, evening, right? Depending on what afternoon means. I don't even know if there's any country that is like noon. I mean, noon is Eastern Standard Time. Late afternoon, maybe Australia. Okay, today is day 3, 6 p.m. in Poland. I think, yeah, Scotland is 4, right? Today's day 3 of Art of Becoming, everybody. Today, we're going to be doing it a little bit differently. I would like to start with Q&A, but before I go to Q&A, let me unshare so we can all see each other. Okay. So I'm really curious to know how everything is sitting with everybody. And I feel like I think we are putting things together in the most simplest way that sort of describe the overall life. You know, it's at this point, what I'm sharing and expressing has become so natural for me, part of my identity. And yeah, I suppose this one, noon. So it's really natural for me to share what I'm sharing in a way that I'm sharing. And I think that the whole package is a combination of my experience. And also, I think I'm naturally putting things together from the perspective of how people are stuck, how people might be stuck, right? And stuck is an interesting place to be because that is a contrast. I can see Julia and Angela are both joining from the same camera. That is fun. If you have anybody who you want to invite on your camera, feel free to invite. So you have a 2, right? Here, but yeah. So let's start with Q&A, but let me just share a couple of things that I come across. So I did post in my Facebook group, the Soul Purpose Facebook group, if there's any question. But also, when I was working on sending out the replay from day 2, I realized how much I was ignoring a lot of the comments on the chat box because I was busy. And then kind of discover a couple of things like, Kara, you were talking about, so do we as an adult go back and explain to the wounded inner child? I think you mentioned about that based on my comment on, you know, whatever the trauma or things that happened in the past was perceived based on the past awareness and experience, and we are not the same, right? I believe, you know, that question comes from that place. And then, so Nick was also asking, I mean, when there's a question mark, I'm assuming that people are asking, right? So should we pursue things that our inner child desire to heal? You know, healing is an interesting term. I think Ethan is joining, but I was having a conversation with Ethan. Oh no, actually the healing conversation was happening with Joel. I'm having like a 10 to 20 different conversation at the same time, so I kind of tend to forget. From the perspective of the physical realm, relative realm, that we sort of conceive time, we think that, okay, oh, I'm injured right now, or I'm sort of feeling ill right now, so I need to heal myself, right? That is actually a viewpoint of the physical. But when we begin wearing the spiritual eyes, which is Domi always terminology, you can say perspective of the soul, which is actually, none of those are my terminology. That is a Gary Zukav's terminology, right? However you want to, you know, the spiritual creator probably is my terminology. it's not that we need to heal anything, but to realize that we are already healed. Yeah. So, oh, did you get surprised by that, Denise? I saw your facial expression just change when I said that. I'm very observant, just so you know. Let me just say it again, right? From the perspective of the physical, people think that there's a timeline and there's a contrast, right? So we think that, oh, I'm injured right now, so I'm feeling pain here, I'm feeling ill, whatever. And we think, okay, there's a past and right now and the future. Past is where we came from, present is where we're at right now, future is where we're going, right? That's all conception of the mind based on the physical relative realm. And from that perspective, we think logically that, oh, I'm not perfect. I'm sort of, I don't know, impaired, whatever terminology I want to use. So I need to heal to change this thing. That is the way that we think as humans. But when we wear the lens and come from the spiritual point of view, just like, you know, we think that the negative things happens in the outside and then we perceive as negative things. But that's a human perspective. From a spiritual perspective, I think something that Julia mentioned yesterday, we sort of look for and feel into the meaning of what it is, right? So we look at things from a spiritual point of view, there's nothing that we need to heal. Ooh, that might sound like a huge statement. It is more about realizing that we are already healed. What's on your mind? What's on your mind right now? Because if you think that I need to heal this, I need to heal my past trauma, the wound, you are seeing yourself as somebody who needs to be healed. And none of those stories in the mind is you. Yeah. If we think that we need to heal, we are still trapped. I'm just going to use the term trap in a most kindness and gentle way. We're still trapped in the bubble of the mind. That is not who we are. We talked about that for the last 2 days, 3 hours, right? We're not the mind, we're not the body. I mean, when we get injured, the body, we feel that injury. Yeah. But the body might need to heal, but you are already healed. Nothing has been distorted at the spiritual plane. Nothing has been impaired in the spiritual plane. That doesn't exist. I mean, I was going to talk about karma, but let me talk about karma because Natalia might like this topic actually, based on my conversation with her. There are a lot of people who talk about, okay, I need to sort of, karma is being used as, okay, you have something that you did in the past life and you carry that onto the present lifetime. And there's a lesson that needs to be learned that we are carrying from the past. That is a BS, which is belief system. Yeah, that is a BS, which is a belief system, right? I don't usually curse in any of my training. Yeah, that is a belief system, right? So, because the spiritual plane doesn't recognize the lack, doesn't recognize the pain, doesn't recognize fear. So there's no way for the soul to carry past life trauma. Yeah, that is a idea and the concept that human created that I found to be not true. And then you can believe whatever you want it to be. But the belief that you hold on to will be represented in your life. So which one would you like to believe? I want to believe that I'm not really taking anything from the past and I'm sort of restudying in a way from a pure place. That for me makes sense to me more. And, I'm not here to convince what you should believe. You choose your belief based on the life that you would like to live. But that feels more expansive. That feels like if we talk about the spiritual realm as the realm of the absolute, that we kind of went through that imagery of how to get there, and the relative physical world is that realm of the context contrast that we form individuality and identity, and the realm of the mind, the body, and the spiritual plane is different realm. It doesn't, for me, make sense that we are here to do something to learn the lesson from any past life if soul is love and pure. And sometimes when we get stuck into this sort of cycle of not being able to get out of the stuckness, it's easier for us to say, oh, this is karma. This is karma. Some external force that is bigger than me is doing something and I have no control. It's easier to say that, right? But how can we own the choice and the embodiment of the power so we can rise above it is what I'm more interested in. Okar says, yeah, isn't trauma stored in the brain? I think brain and the body are connected. Like, the emotions we call, limbic system, but also there's emotions, neuropeptide and ligand stored in the body. I think those are hand in hand. So focus on our becoming until we are in our being. That's what Nick is asking. Okay, so all these things that I saw on the chat yesterday has something to do with how do we deal with the past wounded, right? I think I saw Stephanie, you posting about what to do and reconcile with the past memory. And I think I also saw Anita asking, okay, this is great. I got all of this. How do we change it? How do we actually change it and become it, right? I think there are steps, but I think the first step is the main message that I had on day one. Practicing reconnecting with the wholeness. Practicing reconnecting with the wholeness is to begin experiencing the identification of you bigger than your personality. And then by doing that, your identity becomes smaller and smaller. And when I say smaller, I'm not using the term from the place of no value or whatever, but that when your identity becomes smaller and smaller, the story identity, and when you start identifying yourself as a part of the whole, that identity becomes bigger and bigger. A lot of the stuff that you might have been feeling stuck from the past start impacting less and less and less. Because you're no longer identifying yourself as the story, less identification as the story. So that would be the first step. Now, how do we actually do that? Oh, I'm saying, what about DNA? What about DNA? Kara, do you want to unmute? Because I'm just seeing that right now. You have.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hi there. Yeah, what about DNA? Because DNA, it has got things from our parents,
Yeah.
their parents passed down. So I think that has an impact on us.
Yeah.
It has an impact on our health. It has an impact on even on our personality, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do we you're saying, are you saying, Yuki, that we can overcome that with imagination? Are you?
Yeah. So you're talking about the genetic and environmental conditioning and programming that has been inherited from our parents and ancestors. Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Yes, that is what I am saying. I'm saying that we don't actually come into the world completely pure. We come in to the world spiritually. We come into the world pure, but we have the DNA in our soul of our ancestors, don't we?
Yeah. The soul of the ancestor, don't we? I'm just repeating it. I mean, the moment
I think the spirit and the soul are different. I don't know what you say. I think spiritually we are a spirit, but our soul, I think, is our mind, our will, our emotions, I think of it like that. Or, as you say, your soul purpose, your purpose on this earth. I think that's what I believe. So our spirit is our essence of us. That is our purity, but we come in with our ancestors' DNA.
when
We're born.
the soul is embodied in the physical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the moment the soul is embodied in the physical, that becomes
the moment that I guess that we are that we are the embryo kind of starts growing, and the spirit is in there, from source, God, I believe. But so we have that mold in, so we don't actually come pure. So when we go back, where do we go back to, Yuki? That's what I'm trying to work out. How do we purify all that DNA that is passed through to us?
So DNA has information that we inherited, but also I think the most important thing is this idea of epigenetics, right? Epigenetic is about genetics, where utilizing our thinking and choice, we can override those.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm hearing you saying. That's what I'm listening to. You're saying that is possible to override it, cleanse it.
I mean,
change it.
You can look up everything around Bruce Lipton for that. He's a cell biologist, and he's the one who is really loudly speaking in the world that only 5% of the cancer is genetics. 95% of the cancer is environmental conditioning. What that really means is that if somebody sees that cancer is running in their family, and then if that person experienced cancer, more than likely, not because it's running, but because they believe that it's running, that belief about it influence that formation of the manifestation in form. Right. I'm not saying, I'm not neglecting that 5%, right? And so let's use that as an example, though. What are we believing about our parents and ancestors? What if the 5% is the only percentage that has the power to influence us, and 95% of the time our thoughts and desire and who we want to become can override it? That's a good analogy.
Yeah, that's good. 5%. That's really good.
5%.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to just say less than 1%.
Okay. Less than 1%. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll believe that too. I'll take your belief. I'll take your belief.
Yeah. Okay. But what you're saying, Cara, is how do we override what you believe to be laid down in your DNA?
Yeah, I guess that's what I am saying. I'm saying that we've been conditioned to believe this, haven't we? We've been conditioned to believe that things follow through families, cancer, like you say, heart conditions, blocked arteries,
Yeah.
things like that, that we've been conditioned to think are hereditary. You know, we go to the doctor and they say, oh, is this in your family? So yeah, we've been conditioned to believe that, and then they come back with the DNA, and we do know that there is a little bit of truth in that, really, don't we? You know, we do have the same blood groups and we have the same certain things. So yeah.
This is very good because I'm thinking a lot of stuff. Like, I can see my parents in me, right? My father's traits, characteristics, and my mother's trait characteristic. And I feel like I got both from both nicely. Yeah.
Okay.
I have seen things that really shines my father. I see a lot of things that shines my mother. I also saw a lot of things that was holding my father, a lot of things that was holding my mother back. Yeah. This is how we do it. This is the application, everybody, right? My father is so optimistic and adventurous, right? He just go around the world. He just likes to do things, right? Following his passion, right? I got that fully. My mother is a healer. She is very synchronistic, energetic. She was in organic food when organic wasn't out there just yet. She never took medicine. She believes in natural healing. Yeah, I got all of that from her. My father was somebody who was speaking against a politician watching TV. Like, he had this opinion when he didn't like what the politician was talking about in the TV. He was talking to them, right? He had this thing, right? Now, I don't have that, but I can see that part of me, but I changed the way I express that. I saw that, and I saw that in me. I was an angry person when I was little. Yeah. But I started to change the perspective of how to use it. My mother is very sensitive. She was worried about a lot of stuff easily. Yeah. Worry in Japanese language has a word heart. Delivering the heart means to be worried about. That's what worry means in Japanese. Worry tends to be a negative term, but delivering the heart doesn't sound negative. Yeah. So I stopped worrying about stuff, but I kept delivering my heart. So changed my perspective of how I got the energy of worry to being sensitive and deliver it, but I didn't let that pull myself down to go to a fear place. Does that make sense? So I see in me a lot of my parents' trait, but using the power of perception and perspective and understanding the divine blueprint, how to relate with contrast, I navigated that energy in a way that I can be empowered. So yes, I inherited those traits, but I revised it.
Yeah. So you're saying that first thing to do then is the awareness, like we talk about awareness, is being aware of those traits, being aware of them, and then turn them.
Yeah. Sometimes a lot of the emotions are perceived in a certain way, and the same emotion can be shifted to a different energy based on how you see things. And then when you start changing that perspective, the same emotion begins shifting to something else that empower us. The only thing that we need to keep in mind is what Emily, you were mentioning about, focusing on being closer and connected to the divine or away from it, whether we're feeling empowered, which is being in the energy of power to own the power within, or delegating the power outside of us. Yeah, that can be the marker for us to choose what we choose to choose. Yeah. Then you can begin changing it.
Okay. So you're saying that we have the power in our mind to overcome our DNA.
Yeah, I do believe so. Yeah. Because I feel like I have overcome it. So it's not like I do believe. It's possible.
Okay.
Are you, Emily, your hand is up, but Mary, are you sending me a message, direct message on purpose, or it just happened to become a direct message? How about our body is a tool that created to receive the whole vibration through us? Say a little bit more of what you mean.
Can I talk?
Yeah, you can.
I think the body, this is my vision, that the body is a tool that we connect to the whole. But this body inherited all of that, and all of these emotion and feeling and all of that come to this nervous system, this brain, all of them work together. When we are living, when we know that we can connect to the whole, and body can injure. By it is a tool. It is the object. But whole is not an object. So it is not a DNA. DNA, it is in our body. That is what am I talking. The whole is not a body. The whole is whole.
Yeah.
The whole create all of those.
Yeah.
The whole create this body to connect with us. This is my perception.
Yeah.
So this perception, when you had it, so the body injured, my foot injured, I fall down or I hit it or something happened, I will, the tool that we have created, that we can create the thing that to heal our body, to heal this one, to realize that whatever we are doing, if we are injuring our body, the body cannot do the function that we will do. And we have the certain amount of life for this body. Body will live, but the whole is not living. Whole is living in the whole.
It's interesting.
This is my vision. I am not at all reading anything, studying to go to the thing, but this is the way when she talked, I just saw it and I got it. Suddenly said, hey, this is two different things and two different, this is just the vibration of that, this body, this tool can bring it to us. That is it.
So body is a interesting and magnificent instrument, I think, because it's a physical thing, but the body has a component of non-physical. The body is your subconscious mind. The body reflects your subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is not in space. And our conscious rational mind is our individual thinking, individual attention that we can navigate to visualize and imagine. And when you start feeling what you're imagining, when you start emoting and feeling what you're thinking, that thought and imagery is now transferred into your subconscious mind, which is the body, right? Now, but what we really want to keep in mind is that your mind, okay, don't get puzzled with this one, right? We're going to take it beyond logical. your mind is nowhere in space. Yeah. So when we say, okay, the mind thinks, and when we think through the mind, there's an activity in the brain, neurological activity. But when you open the brain, you can never find the mind. When you open the body, you can never dictate where the subconscious mind is. It in the glenohumeral joint in the shoulder? There's nothing that you can locate the subconscious mind in the body, because the mind, conscious, subconscious, does not occupy space, right? Then, because the subconscious mind is a part of the infinite universal intelligence, that's why we say, let go and let God, where when you let go into the subconscious, the operating system, for some reason I feel like it's laundry, operating systems start kicking in, and it takes care of it. That's why in manifestation, the how is not our business. But I think you're right, Mary. Like, if the body is your subconscious mind, and if the subconscious mind is connected with the infinite universal intelligence, it's not just about the physical body, but we want to realize that the body in the physical is this thing, but it's more than that when we look at from a different dimension.
It's interesting to know how receive, how do it. But I feel this is when you guys talking, it's just coming to me that we are the tool. And that is, I just want to communicate. That's
Thank
it.
You. Do you have your hands up, Emily?
Yeah, I just had a quick response to the DNA conversation. I wanted to extend an invitation to consider changing the language. I hear the term override or overcome. And whatever our DNA holds is not, like, it may or may not ever be expressed, right? Just because it's in there doesn't mean we have to experience or we have to express it. So I don't see it as an override or an overcoming, because if it's never expressed, like, I don't have to overcome it. It's just a matter of who I am, what I believe, what I think, you know, all of that leads to chemical things in my body, and those chemical things will either express what's in the DNA or not. So to me, that word feels important, and I just wanted to share that in case it helps somebody else in kind of shifting their relationship and how you think about DNA and what it means, right, for our physical experience of life. Because just because it's there does, like, we used to think that about DNA. If it was there, like, there was nothing we could do about it. It was in our DNA, you know, it was going to happen. But that's scientifically, they don't look at DNA that way anymore. And we can use that to our benefit, you know, for our purpose here, and you know, in experiencing, you know, our soul's purpose more and more of our time here on Earth.
Yeah. What if that is constant emotion and dynamic in waiting to be created how it wants to express? Right.
Yeah, like I see DNA is just like a pool of opportunity and possibility. And what actually happens, we can influence, at least to some extent.
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea of neuroplasticity and epigenetics, fundamentally. Denise, your energy is leaning forward a little bit.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say about the neuroplasticity. So the kids I worked with had sensory processing problems, and they often were very similar to their parents. So a certain amount of it was inherited, but the therapy was to improve it, make it more functional. And so there are physical things you can do to make your nervous system more efficient.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily stuck, but you got what you got.
And also adding on to that, though, I mean, depending on your case, because they're children, so they might not be aware of this dimension, but sometimes, like, let's kind of move away from that. And then when we talk about changing movement pattern or whatever, when we get to adult, right? There is a belief component that we might be holding on to underneath that is creating the demonstration of it. Like, let's say if you have a belief that I'm not coordinated, right? You will continue to replicate that belief. If you have a belief that, or had an experience in the past that I failed doing this, you have this hesitation and resistance around going to that motion, right? So, but I think there's that component of belief that we can shift to change the quality as well.
Yeah, no, part of the therapy involved showing the kid they really could do stuff.
Yeah.
Usually after about 6 weeks of therapy, the mom would say, oh, well, he's trying this and he's trying that. And it's partly because you've made changes and partly because now they believe they can do it.
Yeah. Belief is interesting. Yeah. Sharon has a question, but I also feel like you are trying to transition from phone to computer. Is that what it is? That there are two Sharons joining now?
I'm gonna stop hanging up on my phone. Okay, so hold on.
Which one are you talking? Okay, there, perfect.
Okay, so sorry about that because I couldn't see everybody. Let me open my video. Okay. So thank you. I just wanted to ask you, I'm really struggling with, like, I'm trying to become, I'm closer to what I want to express what's internal and have that be my reality. So currently I'm working in a very, just really quickly, working in Department of Defense and doing a job that is not me at all. So there's a lot of blocked energy and a lot of like oil and water type of situations where the people I'm with are not on my wavelength, literally. So I'm asking if we're part of a whole, like I'm probably leaving and I'm going to go back into teaching, even maybe Monday. Like I'm going to start substituting and applying for teaching jobs because I realize it's not working. So, and the people are very toxic. So how is that? How do I, knowing that I'm part of a whole, but these people are very antagonistic, not everybody, but there's an energy, maybe I'll say the energy is antagonistic towards me. Am I part of that whole, or how I'm trying to figure out where I am in this office, sitting there in pain, in psychic pain around people that are, I won't go political, but you know what I mean? I'm very liberal. I'm just around a very, very blocked. I feel very blocked and I feel like I have to escape.
Yeah.
Literally. I feel like I had to leave early yesterday because I was in so much discomfort.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do I see that as part of a whole? The question is, am I part of that whole? I don't know where how does that express itself? Like, are they they're part of the whole too, but there's all this, all these conflicts, even not unspoken conflicts, energetic conflicts existing in a space.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up, because the moment you started to speak, everyone got the message right away.
Oh, I'm glad. I wasn't sure if I was being clear.
So. Let me share with you what would be the most helpful to address where you're at. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I have studied and followed different spiritual teachers, but one of the distinct teaching that Gary Zukav has, who wrote Seed of the Soul.
Oh yeah, I read that. Yeah.
What I like about him is he talks about external and authentic power, but he talks about the most important spiritual practice is for us to stay in love when the person in front of you comes from the place of fear.
Oh,
And then bear with me. The next one is
I understand,
next
actually.
one is important. When somebody comes at you from the energy of fear, and if you react from the place of the same fear, we are not different from them, even though we might think that we are more aware. Yeah.
Yes.
So what that tells us is that, yes, we know when somebody says the environment is toxic and the people around us is not in the same wavelength or whatever, they are not aware, they're focusing on something, the priority for them is different. They're operating from the place of defending something about themselves. They're having this invisible hierarchy and wanting to pull somebody down. We have all probably witnessed, those, we call it, like, sometimes we call it politics, right?
Yeah, office politics.
The company for me, right? We are all aware of that. Now, I'm not asking you to see the wholeness in them.
Okay.
When that happens, if somebody is creating that energetic thing, it means that they're actually right now operating from the separateness from the whole. But what's important is for you to not to let that affect you to be separate from the whole. And that might require changing the environment. But I think the important thing is to not to look at them and say what they need to be doing differently, but to observe your own internal reaction of how things are arising inside of you.
Yeah.
Towards the outside.
Yes. So for example, like just really quickly, okay, just trying to explain, like I think when all my life I've been told that I'm a nice person, right? So I think I'm a nice person. I think I'm friendly. Okay, so then I always include people. I never exclude people. I don't do that. But I'm finding myself being rejected in ways that I would not do to somebody else. So, that whole thing, treat others as you would like to be treated yourself, right? So, so when that's happening, you're saying, instead of in my mind thinking they're mean, like women here, mean girls, like, mean girl mentality. Oh no, you choose, Evie. I don't know. Do that so much. I don't really know, but it seems like women we're very competitive sometimes against each other. So when that's happening, instead of getting defensive, I have to have a practice internally saying, to try to remind myself not to let that separate me from God. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. When somebody does something mean to you, it's not mean until you see so.
Oh.
Right. If somebody does something mean to you, it doesn't become mean in your experience until you choose to see so. So that perception inside of you, if you start seeing that it's mean, and if you interpret something as a mean, there might be a internal dialogue that follows, right? Why is this person doing this to me?
Yeah.
What did I do wrong? Whatever, yeah? That takes you into a disempowered state. So you're letting that outside of that thing that happened own the power over you.
Okay.
That is where the separation happens.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Internally. That's when the disconnect from the whole in you.
Okay. Can I like close my comments with this? I said aha because I had one experience when I lived in New York City. My ex-husband's African. We lived in a Black neighborhood in Bedford-Stuyvesant, New York. And a lot of Black women would look at me like they hated me. So what I started doing, because it always caused a fight with me and my ex-husband, like, did you see that? Did you see how she looked at me? So what I started doing was, and it really dissipated it, if I got a nasty look from a woman with my husband who was very good looking, tall, like, if I would look at them and internally in my mind, I would say, I love you. And I would actually use it as a practice. And it didn't always work, but often it would dissipate the negative energy. So that's like an example of one time that I actually did that. And I didn't even know what I was doing really.
Yeah. You know, so I know you, Sharon, for quite some time. Yeah. And based on our conversation, and it's been obvious to me from the energy that I'm feeling is that
Be honest.
I might need to. I'm thinking about the next training that might be very good, actually. You are an empath.
That's what I've been told. Thank you for somebody. My pastor told me that.
I mean, people who are attuned to spirituality, it's difficult not to be an empath because we are sensitive, so we can feel some others' energy. Yeah, but I think what we want to learn to maneuver is to distinguish the environment and your internal experience. Because if you're receiving the outside energy, you are blending the event and your experience. And then now there's a blind spot in your perception and the choice of what you're choosing. And then what happens often, that I hear often, is that people who are empath tends to say that, oh, I take on others' energy.
Yeah.
Right? I take on others'
energy. I feel it in the office. It's crazy.
Yeah. There is a part that you feel, and also there's a part that you're perceiving, and that perceiving can become a little subconscious because you're so used to feel the energy, but that sense of choosing how to see might be in an unaware place for a lot of people for empath.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you're just saying, like, to work on, like, remembering whenever we're in a situation where we feel like we're going to be separated from God or the source, we have to remind ourselves and not personalize what they're saying, realizing they're coming out of a place of fear. And I just happen to be the receptor of that. But it's not me, it's just the situation.
I mean, this requires a little practice and time, but I think the very first step that I always recommend is to be the observant of your inner experience. Because if you cannot observe the inside experience the moment it happens something in the outside, your attention is going to be, this is happening in the outside. But your experience is, this inside is being unfolded from within. And to ask, if that internal experience is not something that you're desiring, we want to ask, what is it about this experience that is, what's the perception that I'm filtering through that is creating this experience inside?
Yeah. Because my perception obviously is impacting what's actually happening. Like, it could be totally different. My perception could be putting my perception on what's happening, and it might not even be the person's intention.
Yeah. Yes. It may be a misunderstanding.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to, be aware of observe my internal experience as I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
What I perceive to be a negative, toxic action or negative energy. Okay.
I think also there is a benefit. Yeah. I think there's going to be a benefit that, because I do hear that very often, toxic environment, right? What if there's not such a thing?
Well, can I say this? Yesterday I wrote it down. My coworker said, the smell of failure and desperation is contagious. If that's not toxic, I don't know what is. Smell of failure and desperation is contagious. I mean, who says things like that?
Yeah, but that's just how they are.
Yeah, very toxic.
Yeah.
She's very, like, I mentioned intermittent fasting and water fasting, and I mentioned a Dr. Mindy Pell master, and she's a guide. And she's like, yeah. I said, she's a doctor. She's really good with hormonal. And she said, yeah, so is Dr. Kevorkian, a doctor. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's just like, that's what I'm surrounded by. Just a lot of negativity. Not everybody, but just there's a few people like that. They're going to be negative no matter what. I don't know.
You are aware that toxic is a perception.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't it a reality? I mean, I'm working for the weapons system support. I mean, I'm working in a place that is based in fear. That's why I have to leave. The only reason I'm working there is because my family worked there, and it's a big company. Yeah, it's the federal government. So just so if you're ladies, if you're wondering why in the world would I pick a place like that, I was applying for teaching jobs and that came first. I'm a single mom, so that's why I'm there. You know, it's only because I need a job, but I'm working. It's a place of fear. Like, because we're working for defense, but it's to defend against the enemy. So that's a bigger discussion, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Don't you think that's a toxic environment?
Toxic
Sorry, I don't want to go down a
I mean, toxic environment might exist, but I think I hope we can all see this. Let's say, Sharon, if you say this is a toxic environment, yeah. The toxicity is based on the perception plus your past experience of what toxic means for you.
Oh, that's true.
Right? And then the energy in which you face and deal with that becomes, I guess the point is that if you look at things and determine that this is a toxic environment, you are actually setting yourself not to succeed, because you know what I mean?
That's
because
true.
You're entering in the energy of not wanting the resistance, right? So I'm not saying that, because this kind of work is nothing to do with trying to change something in the outside. This kind of work is everything to do with how you can shift your experience inside.
Oh, Yuki, I know. You know, like in Buddhism, like the Bodhisattva practices in the fire.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I can be a Bodhisattva.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to take up so much time, but I just wanted to get some advice there. Thank you.
Tara, you're hungry.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Hang on, there we go. Yeah. I just want to say, oh, Sharon, thank you for sharing. That was beautiful. She has a beautiful, beautiful, gentle energy, doesn't she? She's so lovely. What I was going to say was I was going back to what we were talking about before about how we can perhaps talk ourselves into being sick or being a particular way, because I was thinking, I have a friend and she has a daughter and she talks about her and she says, my autistic daughter, and that's how she talks about her. She doesn't call her name, she calls her autistic daughter. And I was just thinking, you know, when we were talking about how the DNA is there but it doesn't have to be expressed, then yeah, so already when she was very young, you know, she was putting something on her that was, and then it got bigger. Where we focus grows, doesn't it? Whatever we focus on grows, whether it's negative or positive. So yeah, I was just kind of like, that came to my mind, and I was thinking, yeah, that's actually true. You know, if you come into and then they say, oh yeah, be careful, you know, your dad had that, you know, don't eat this, don't eat that, don't do this, don't do that. It's growing in your mind, it's growing, and then it would just manifest, I guess, if it's growing into such a way. It's psychosomatic, isn't it? You can make yourself ill by thinking, you know, oh yeah, I'm ill.
We in the mind likes to put label onto things naturally, because knowing what it is gives people a clarity and order in the mind. But I think what many people might not be aware is that labeling is identity. You know, labeling something becomes identification. And identity consists of belief. So I'm not saying that the autistic child can turn into the absence of it right away, but it will, I don't think it will ever help to be free if you continue to identify yourself as something, because you're now infusing the belief that is so, and everything becomes from that place.
Yeah, definitely. And she even talks to her, oh, you know, my autistic daughter, that is just how she talks about her. And yeah, I'm thinking, oh, you are labeling her and giving her an identity. That's what you are doing. And but we do have personalities, don't we? And that's, what Sharon was saying about toxic, but people do have personalities that sometimes maybe are not compatible. We can't be compatible with everybody, can we? I know we have the vibration and the frequency, but we still do have different personalities. Some people are extroverts, some people are introverts, some people are talkative, some people are not. So that is something that we're not going to get on with everybody, no matter how we can. I think it's about, for me, what I recognize is about having your self-worth, isn't it? It's about believing in you. So when Sharon recognizes that she is, a beautiful, worthy person, then whatever they're saying about her won't matter, because she will have that belief in self-worth in herself. Yeah.
Oh, can I just mention one thing, Yuki, just really quick to what Kara said? Thank you, Kara. I just wanted to say, like, I'm working towards that. I used to get very defensive, like when I used to be like a doormat, and now that I was like in the middle, I was like, well, I'm still kind of in the middle where I get defensive. And I'm thinking, I'm better than that. Who do they think they are? Like in my head, the self-talk is, oh, she thinks she can say that to me. Oh, really? And I get very attitudinal in my mind, but that's separation in and of itself, right? So I have to work on not like moving past that defensiveness and not being like, not saying snarky things just to defend myself in my head, So
I don't think you're better than them. Just think that you are maybe more aware than them, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
So the bottom line, though, everybody, is the fulfillment of your desire. The bottom line is where we start and where we end, and when we are journeying into, that is forever continuing, is the fulfillment of the desire. So you're right. Some people might be extroverts, some people might be introverts, some people might like to express out loud, some people might be not wanting that, some people might like clubbing, others might be liking reading. And one is not better than the other, they're just different. But what's important in this physical is to move deeper towards the fulfillment of the desire, because what we desire is what we are here to express. What we desire is what we are here to express. And I think fulfilling the desire, to me, is truly the merge of the spiritual and the physical. In the spiritual community, there is a movement of like a oneness and wholeness, just like we talked about on day one. And there is this idea that if you want more of something, that is a product and the energy of the ego, because nothing would very much, we don't own anything. So, the life in the physical ends, none of the things would really mean anything, right? There's that opinion in the spiritual realm. I get where they're coming from, but I don't see the meaning of we are given the body, if that is the case, right? If we're going back to remembering who we are, but I also feel like there needs to be an integration of our being and our becoming. So our becoming, I was talking with Ethan, my new friend on Instagram, this morning, the wholeness and the being is that spiritual realm. And when we are connecting to that, we are whole and we don't need anything else, right? But then when we kind of face the physical, you might have a desire of not wanting to live in a messy place or dirty place, or you might have a preference of wanting to go to Blue Bottle like myself over different places, right? And there's a preference in liking, and I want more of this than this sort of thing, right? Because we are in the relative realm. And I think we have that for a reason, right? The distinction that I tell myself often is that the more of is not to validate ourselves to somebody, right? Because this external validation thing comes from fear, right? If there's this feeling inside of us that we want to be accepted because we didn't in the past, there is an easy tendency for people to want to do more of something because I want the approval, right? I want the recognition, I want the validation. But if the energy comes from that place, sometimes people get drained because they're operating from the place of fear. Needing external validation and wanting more something because of that is a fear-based energy that doesn't allow us to be in that state of wholeness, but we're separating and then wanting to do something. Sometimes people don't notice that. And then that happens often when you are really into personal growth development industry and not fully in the spiritual realm. Because people start getting caught up with accomplishment, doing more things. And then they sort of that motivation and doing more, the internal energy get blinded where I'm coming from. But the ease and flow and expansion happens when the energy of wanting more comes from this sort of sense of mission, calling, and for the sake of touching and giving to others. And that sort of lead me to something that I didn't mention this time, but I always mention about, which is I always said that he was my first teacher, but I might not say that he is my second teacher, because there's a first teacher that is before that, actually. So Neil Donald Walsh is actually my second teacher. I used to say that he was my first teacher. There's one person before that, actually, to be clear. But he said life is not about you, but everybody else whose life you touch. Yeah. I think it's a useful thing to begin looking at ourselves. This is just the practice that I do often, where I see myself a medium. I see myself as a messenger. Yeah. I see myself as a medium of something bigger than myself. I see myself as a messenger or something bigger than myself. And the expression of myself becomes more and more expansive when I really acknowledge that, and when I acknowledge in myself that I am just and only and unique medium in a way that I want to express. And I think everybody is also the same. Yeah. And the beauty of this is that, let's say, each individual, all of us wanting more of something, right? Wanting more of something because that gives us a sense of freedom and expansion, right? When you have the thing that you want, if you can visualize that, why do we want that? Because it gives us a sense of freedom and expansion. That experience of freedom and expansion is who we are, right? We are only expansion, we are only freedom, we're only love in the spiritual plane. We are wanting to demonstrate that in the physical through the power of the mind. The difference between the spiritual realm and the physical realm is that you cannot become anybody. You always need to become somebody in the physical realm. Even though you sort of give up and become a homeless person, you have an identity as a homeless person. It's inevitable to not to become anybody in the physical. You just, as a default, fall into becoming somebody because we're living in a relative realm, right? And then the art and the play that we are doing in this physical is to demonstrate who we are, which is that full expansiveness, full expression, the freedom by becoming that. And how do we become that? By creating the life that demonstrates the fulfillment of the desire. And when we start leaning into and aligning with that fulfillment of the desire, when we fulfill our desire, we feel more expansive and lighter and brighter. And that light is only to help and touch others to find their light. That's what it means by life is not about you, but it's about everybody else whose life you touch. Now, we do want to put the oxygen mask to ourselves first, because we cannot help others to breathe better if you're not breathing. My life started by suffering from asthma. I was not able to breathe. I overcame that with swimming. That, Emily, I think I overcame it. And I mean, you cannot help others to do anything if you're not able to breathe yourself, right? So you want to demonstrate your freedom to explore that, but that doesn't end there. There's a so that you can help and touch and serve others to experience the same. To say, hey, come on this side. This is feeling very good. So, and this is sort of like a get blindsided, because we if there's a lack there of something in your life, you know, we feel like we want to do something to ourselves to fulfill that, right? But let's just take a moment, imagine your life of the version that your desire is being fulfilled. Yeah, whatever that is, take a moment, just kind of imagine, go there for a moment. Yeah. And then imagine that nobody else exists in this world. Yeah. So fulfilling the life of the desire without interaction and encountering of others feels meaningless. It kind of leads us to like, why are we even doing that, right? So I think exploring the gift, unique gift, and to be able to become the fulfillment of the desire, so that in this physical, we can demonstrate who we already are. Yeah. And we can have anything we want. Nothing wrong with wanting material stuff, as long as you're not attached to it. Means that, what do I mean by that? It means that if you're feeling not worthy because you don't have it, it means that you're attached to it, right? It's okay to not to have anything, because we are worthy by who we are, but it's okay to want to have everything, because this playground is fun and it's abundantly available for everybody, and we can choose whatever we want to choose. So it's up to us, whatever we want. If you want a wealthy, luxurious life, you can have it. If you want a simple, basic life, you can have it. But I think what we want to make sure is to become observant in what's the relationship with each different kind of life. And then you kind of choose whatever you feel and gives you the most expansiveness. And that's a unique expression of each one of us. Not everybody wants a certain kind of life, right? And that also takes us to this idea of success. You know, we have this divine success guide in the Soul Purpose group. And success to me means polished to become. Yeah, that comes from Japanese language. Two different Chinese characters, polished to become. So in the world, success might be associated with the amount of money, which nothing is wrong with it. Success might be associated with winning something like a gold medal or some Oscar or some sort of recognition, right? And all of those are great as long as we are not attached to it. Means that if you don't get that, you're not less worthy than, because you're not associating your worth with the conception of who you're becoming, but the worth lies in who you already are. Does that make sense? Then it is a little bit of mind game though. We want to play with it. So I feel like the cycle, needs to go into giving, and we are striving to become that expression of the fulfillment of the desire, because then we can touch and impact others. And that's, I think, where the real fulfillment resides. When we are able to touch and impact others, we are creating a harmonious wholeness in the physical to get back collectively who we are always who we have always been, which is the wholeness. So demonstrating wholeness in the physical is what I'm interested in. And I think, any professional occupation, a vehicle that we have, I think that is the underlying message that I have received and sort of put together in a way that makes sense to me. And that's what's becoming the divine essence is about. Becoming conceptually in our mind who we are, and then in that conception we can choose whoever we want to become. The person who we're becoming is the version of us that fulfills the desire on earth, and I think that's what we are here to do, and I think that's what we are here to wake up into. Does anybody have any question? I know sometimes you need to kind of sit down and close your eyes and maybe do a little journal to process things. Where is... So I think something that I mentioned on day one, this is a 3-day training. And if you feel, and then I'm talking to not only us, but who are live, but also those who are watching the replay. I didn't really pay attention to who might be joining via Facebook, but anybody who is watching there, and then people who are, engaging in replay. If you really feel called to dive into this, to be able to embody everything that we're talking about, and to stay in the energy of coming back to this, to begin transforming your energetics at the subconscious level, we always encourage and invite everybody to join us. The best thing that you could join, of course, is the 6-month path that we have, Divine Self-Realization. Yeah. Divine Self-Realization is a 6-month path that gives you a step-by-step practice to realizing the divine self in you, which is what we have been talking about, right? You become who you are. You become in your mind who you are, essentially. And I mean, 6 months is a good length. I think I have been expressing that in my experience watching people and also observing myself, it takes a little bit time. A year to 2 is a good length, and you can start with a 6 month. But here, day 3 is today, but starting next week, moving into from this intro session to moving into, we are going to have a study group called Becoming Study Group. It's an interesting name. And I do offer a shorter, a little less commitment version of the offer, which I am calling study group, which will be beginning next week on the 6th. We meet once a week. And everything that we talked about on day 1, Divine Blueprint, day 2, Vibrational Reality, Becoming the Divine Essence, is going to be explore and explain and practice each month. So the month of April, we're going to be practicing embodying the Divine Blueprint by, for me, offering lessons around the fulfillment of the desire, to clarify the desire and to relate with the world how you can express your desire. I want to talk really about the idea of conception. The conception becomes a part of us, and we do not realize that we are conceptualizing things. I kind of demonstrated the example of how I shift my perspective around what I thought that I received from my parents. A perspective also gets blindsided, right? Many people call perception. I think perception is a sensory faculty in the mind that we perceive. I think what we are really talking about is the shift in perspective. Being the light is being the messenger. So how can we align with that? So each week, I'm going to be sharing some lessons. And also, I'm going to be using Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Voice of Knowledge, which I think will be helpful to really distinguishing your stories. And he talks about lies in the mind. And I like the book because the book starts with the story of Adam and Eve eating the fruits of the tree of knowledge, which is the belief that we received. And a lot of the stuff that he talks about, there are things that is not in alignment with my belief and how I approach life. And I'm going to share that with everybody too, what exactly that is in Don Miguel's work. A lot of stuff is great stuff. He doesn't really talk too much about the creation and he talks about, the artist and creation part, but he doesn't use the term manifestation. But simple practice that gives us a understanding of the concept and our essential being. I think he's a perfect person to study with. So, there's 12 chapters in the books, and we're not going to read each chapter, but in conjunction with the book, I will be sharing different lessons to strengthen, to apply that in your life. The month 2 is going to be the extension of day 2, vibrational reality, to encourage everyone to focus on your inner vibration to be the creator, so you can constantly creating, so you don't get created by your past or your outside. And then the last month, we're going to be examining assumption. We're going to be examining attachment. We're going to be examining inspiration and how to live from that 5D place in this 3D world. This will begin next week. And the early bird rate is 444. I am offering sliding scale, so you can choose the price that fits you. There are already people who are action taker who already signed up. And if you choose to explore the divine self-realization, we have the Divine Success by and myself. We will be in contact with you via messenger or email, whatever the mode is, to offer a call so we can learn what exactly you're looking for, where you at. And if you join us with that divine self-realization longer, you will get this study group automatically. That's what we want to do. So you can get both. Yeah. Does anybody have any question about that? If you miss the weekly call, you will get the recording.
Yuki, I'm possibly interested in, I definitely am interested in all of it, but I think I will only be able to do the Becoming study group for 3 months at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the sliding scale is, but
you will find out through this link that I just dropped.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Anybody, any questions about anything? Life is amazing. I truly think so. Every moment.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Why do you have to wait 1 more week till we begin?
Oh, why do we have to wait? You can begin. You can begin. I mean, that's so good. You're almost always the first one who signs up, Natalia. Did you know that? That's a good sign.
I didn't know that.
You're an action taker. I mean, you can begin reading the book.
I have.
Oh, you have already. So you finished.
Yeah, I have. You gave that little appetizer by asking the question about Adam and Eve, and I had my own theory on that from my teen and young 20s years, and then I thought, okay, but what's the account on that? And even before I got the book, so me, a person who just signed off from the Catholic Church, you got me reading the Bible again.
Yeah. Bible is amazing. Bible is amazing.
So I went back to the original story of Adam and Eve. Then I got the book for the study group, and I read the first chapter, and I was like, oh, it's about this. So this is why he asked that question.
Yeah. You know what I'm seeing in the world, how Bible might have gotten distorted, is that a lot of the language is based on symbolism, right? And symbolism is the expression of the subconscious. And then people who interpret the symbolism not as a symbolism, but rationally change the meaning of it, because they didn't understand the language of the subconscious. Just so that, the idea of rational thinking and an intuitive feeling, knowing, got mixed up. And so if you're eager to start, Natalia, you can start already. But here's the thing, the day 1, day 2, and even today, day 3, right? The replay will be available until April 5th. in the content that I shared yesterday and the day before and today is going to be the foundation to take into the next 12 weeks. Now, anybody who signed up for the Becoming Study Group will have these 3 days training not expire. So you will take it with that exploration, right? But if you don't sign up, it will be expired for you. So that is a little bit of trick for people to sign up. Let me know if you have any question. Connect with the success Define Success Guide. Does anybody have any other question? No. Feel free to reach out to us. Oh, share your takeaway on the Facebook group, please. Did you have something you want to say, Julia? I kind of felt like you
just something campy. I've had this song that you opened with, the Universe song, ever since you played it yesterday before yesterday's session. And I was thinking that you just gave us a really good way to experience ourselves as a universe. It's really cool. I don't know, just had to share that.
Yeah, I am using different songs intentionally.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yuki, I just have one question. What time does it start on April 6th? Because I work during the day.
So we have 2 calls, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
that's excellent. Okay, thank you.
You're Eastern, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I could do the 5 p.m. Pacific time would be good for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you very soon.